I think I have to start with hitting the ground running. Why is an existential gene not a better, more optimized model? What is uniquely selfish about genes? To clarify, by existential gene, I mean that a gene continues to exist or not based on a simple existential function. Put simply, this specific function is that things that continue to exist do so because otherwise they would have ceased to exist. For example, non-avian dinosaurs stopped existing 66 million years ago, but birds continued to exist, and continue to exist to this day. Thus, selection is an existential function. Selfish gene, by contrast, is a gene that is an individualist subject that acts in a way that tries to continue its own existence. While this still carries the basic existential function of the existential gene scenario, it adds additional baggage that is, in my opinion, scientifically questionable. The most dubious fact is that it tries to inject desire into an individualized subject of the gene itself. If this were true, we would imagine genes as molecular imagos and can use psychoanalysis to analyze genetics. I would hope that Dawkins agrees that this is absurd. Additionally, by insisting upon an individualized subject, he suggests that genes somehow not only have motivations, but also a desire to try to continue to exist. In other words, Dawkins asserts that desire structurally finds itself bound up within a strict inside-outside boundary, split up into genetic units, trying to continue to exist. But this doesn't make any sense from how we understand how evolution or genetics actually functions. For one thing, most genetic mutations involve various additions, copying, deletions, swapped pairs, and all sorts of other mistakes that occur on the molecular level to be produced. Genes require being broken down, mixed up, and sometimes even being reinterpreted through their molecular components to produce new genes. So clearly whatever is producing identity is not somehow ontologically bound up in the boundaries of the gene. Rather, identity clearly emerges post hoc. This is a problem because it means that the concept of selfish genes, regardless of any attempt to circumnavigate this problem, does inherently prescribe motions to genes rather than just merely making predictions, which has serious problems for producing biases. Instead, it is clear to me that genetics operates on an ontology of difference. Mutations become more abstract phenotypes when they accumulate enough differences to matter in current environmental conditions that change over time dramatically as supported by geological evidence. While individuals as subjects do emerge, individualism is not essential to understanding genetics and may even force our viewpoint into particular paradigms. Instead, an existential function can operate on many different ways of analyzing ecology and evolution. For example, while in terms of species, non-avian dinosaurs no longer physically exist, their influence on the evolution of entire ecologies for over 100 million years transformed the path of evolution in such ways that dinosaurs still continue to exist in some sense. The selfish gene underestimates how extensive existence really is in regards to species. Dawkins does recognize this later in the book, which is why he conceives of memes, but he seems to arbitrarily constrain the existence of replicators to only two surfaces: genetics and social mimetics. However, I believe that replication can occur on theoretically any number of surfaces all at the same time. Dawkins transforms this radical fact of genesis through difference into a game of Adam naming the animals. This allows him to comfortably isolate the reality of the political and social influences from the animal world, which he believes is a world of savages, clearly not connected with his own views on his upbringing in Kenya. But as more surfaces emerge through the production of replicators interacting with other material conditions, there are more opportunities for intersections to occur. Dawkins forgets that for the mimetics to exist as he understands them, there must have been a computer of sorts to produce meaning in abstract codes, meaning that in his cases, meaning that his cases emerge from the processing of biological machines. Dawkins ultimately underestimates the replicator, thinking that they only function in two simple flat parallel planes, when in reality replication functions across surfaces that spontaneously emerge and dissolve as a result of general physical chemical activity. Everything ranging from my thoughts to languages to various cultural activities to genes themselves are capable of complex replication abilities that do not limit themselves to basic planes of existence convenient for Western audiences. Despite Dawkins being irrelevant today, the selfish gene, like a viral remnant, remains. If you have ever asked yourself why so many people today struggle with understanding collective thinking, you can look no further than Richard Dawkins. Dawkins was a factory that manufactured a new line of subjectivity as if it were a new line of cars.